Corey. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Fantastic, man. It was fun talking to you before this, so I'm really excited for this conversation.
Yes, thanks for having
Why
me
don't
on.
you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you've been up to for the handful of last years? And then I'd love to go back to the beginning. I heard a lot about your high school days, so I would love to hear about that, and then transition into college and pro.
Yeah, so there's Corey Parchman from Indianapolis, Indiana, born and raised there. Spent a little time in the NFL. I joke all the time, and I tell the NFL actually means not for long.
Yeah, yeah.
So, spent 5 years in the league with the Packers, Jaguars, Packers, St. Louis Rams, Oakland Raiders, and Colts. I'm famous for being able to sit by a water cooler without moving in the cold. So that's my claim to fame in Green Bay. Not playing, right? But I quickly transitioned into business while I was playing. I committed the ultimate sin for professional athletes is you think about plan B while you're still in plan A.
Ooh,
And you're an athlete too, so you know this. You're not supposed to think about anything other than the sport. If you're not thinking about the sport, you're not focused. And someone asked me one day, they said, "When did you think about your plan B or your retirement out of NFL?" And I joke, but I'm serious. I'm like, after my first day of practice ever at the NFL. After the first day of ever practicing NFL, I realized that I need a plan B.
uh,
'Cause I may not be here long. So quickly transitioned into real estate. So once I left the NFL, it was a smooth transition for me because I already started my businesses, real estate development. In many capacities. I initially started buying houses and rehabbing and renting, then buying houses and rehabbing and
mm.
selling, and then start to build houses and build multifamily houses and kind of go from there. And in between time, I have other businesses, but real estate has been my main thing I've done since 2004.
You said something interesting there. I kind of want to drill down on it. You said that the cardinal sin is to think about like life after, whether it be football. I mean, football is probably one that you have to think about the most. Like football and MMA, it's like this career can't last that long, right? Everybody kind of knows that.
Yeah,
Everyone is thinking like, well, it's not me, right? I'm not going to be the guy
yeah, yeah,
who's
yeah,
2 years,
yeah,
5 years,
yep, yep.
whatever it is. Um, but like, how do you balance that mentally when you're like, statistically, I know that this is like a short run thing, so I kind of have to be thinking about the future. And a lot of pro athletes end up not being financially successful post sport. Like, so how did you think about balancing those things?
Um, I think that the biggest thing is when I did get there, I realized how short this could be. I think that theory comes when you first before you get there, like when you're in college and high school. You're like, I know it's only 3 years, only this, only that. So the theory is kind of there, but then once you get there, realize it's like day to day.
Mm,
My first day of practice, three guys got cut, and those three guys did nothing glaringly wrong that we saw,
hmm.
but it's like, well, it's not a good fit. So it was one of those things where I said to myself, I get it, but I can't risk the rest of my life not having anything going on because I put so much stock into this right here. So you're willing to take that chance, and you can walk and chew gum at the same time. Instead of hanging out sometimes and partying, I was studying about business,
Mm,
or instead of going to this event or going to this dinner, I was studying business. So I would say this: actively doing business didn't happen to like my second, third year in the league, but I did a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of shadowing other business owners. So there's a lot of free time you can have. It's how you spend that time because we started practice at maybe 7 and we were probably done with everything about 2:30 every single
yeah.
day. And then you have the off season, so you do your training in the morning time. So there's plenty of times to, if not start another business, to learn a lot about, how it works and how to do it. But the biggest hurdle was me not feeling guilty about doing it. And you taught from day one that you got to be focused. If you do anything else, you're not focused.
Mm,
So once I got over the guilt of thinking about something else, and it wasn't me saying to myself, I'm not good enough. It's saying I'm an adult. I got to figure out what's best for my
yeah.
future.
Yeah, I actually have heard that like there's this YouTuber I watch, he's a professional soccer player, and he's like one of the things you don't realize about professional sports is that like it's kind of boring. You have like a ton of free time. Like you said, if you're done at 2:30. And the NFL is probably different because you have so many meetings. Like when I was in college, I felt bad for my poor friends. I'm like, these guys aren't even getting on the field and they got meetings at 7 o'clock at night, like after class, after weightlifting, after running, after dinner. It's like they got to go back and watch film for Ferris State, and it's like, you're not gonna like you're not gonna be playing. Like, but yeah, there's just a lot of downtime, and you can't just like go exert yourself because it's like, no, I can't like overdo it.
Overdo it, yeah. You know your
Yeah.
limit. of how much work you can do physically. So it's lots of mentally. But I will say this: be honest, as far as on the body and physically, college football was rougher than
Really?
NFL. Like you just said, oh my goodness, like you, I mean, the weight room in itself in college, I mean, you're lifting the ton of weight
Mhm.
because, but in NFL, they're trying to maintain what you've already done.
Interesting, because you need to get up
Um,
to a certain level in college, whereas in the NFL, it's
yes,
like you're not here if you can't run and
yeah, yeah,
lift and do these things.
you're trying to maintain, so you're not trying to bench 300 pounds. If you made it to the league benching 200, you're fine. But in college, if you bench 100, they want you to get to
Yeah,
300. So they're constantly pushing you to push your body to get its maximum if they can. But NFL, you've already maximized what you can do. You're just trying to maintain that, and you get better, incrementally better. But for the most part, in high school, in college, you're 19, 20, they're trying to put 40, 50 pounds on
yeah.
you or 30 pounds on you. So it takes a lot of work to do that. In pros, you're going to maintain your weight. So a lot of the training stuff, you do more of it in college than the
Yeah,
pros.
this was kind of that controversy, you remember with Tom Brady's trainer, who, like, was coming in and he was like, "Tom Brady doesn't need to bench. Tom Brady doesn't need to do all this stuff." And the trainers were like, "You don't get a set, like, the routine." And then I think, like, they got really upset because Gronk was like, "Well, wait a minute. Tom looks amazing. Tom's moving great. Like, maybe I should be doing his workouts." And the trainers were like, "No, no, we make the rules here."
I can definitely see that as trainers have egos because they want to be the experts in the building. But also from a liability standpoint, the NFL or the teams hire, trainers based on scientific research. They're anything. I mean, it's like anything, like an accounting or anybody. They want to hire someone who is an expert at it, who's very very good at it. You bring them off the street, they don't know about. How do they know if this stuff is even scientifically
Mhm.
based? And they're paying you $12 million a year. They're not gonna risk that. It's like, who is this guy? Get him out
Yeah.
of here. Yeah, there's probably a million of those guys but Tom found one that did a great job, but the million and one trainer out there say they got the best, and you can't trust that. So you'd rather have a team trainer who you vetted and who can work with NFL players. So I could definitely say that could be a problem by bringing an outside person
Mm.
in.
So you said on day 1 in the NFL, you saw 3 people get cut. Was there, like, another moment where you're like, "Ooh, like, this is a hard business to be in," like, seeing an injury or, going up against a certain player where you're like, "Ooh, wow, this is a big challenge."
I would say what was interesting about being there was when I did get there, I realized I'm just as good as these guys
Yeah,
are.
well, that's
Like I would
amazing.
just as good they are and all those things. But then you start looking at things like contract sizes, where I got picked at. Those things matter. How much money they have vested in you,
Right.
that matters. And because, if you got a guy they're paying 8 million a year and their guy they're paying 400,000 a year, and that guy's paying 8 million is not playing, somebody has to answer for that
Mhm,
because that's the owner's money.
mhm,
So the coaches would rather say, okay, let me pay the guy. He may not be as good, but because we're paying him more, we want him to play.
mm,
So you look at the politics of it, and you get it. That's just the way things are. You got to figure it out. But once you kind of get in, you realize the politics of it that a guy who may not be as good as you, but they got drafted higher than you, or they got their contracts higher than yours, is going to play over you because they have more money vested in them. So seeing those things was an eye opener to be in a position where you're performing very, very well, but you're not moved to depth chart. You're like, why not? But then you realize, okay, I know why not.
mm,
My contract isn't big enough. They're not having invested in
mm.
me. And you have to have a lot of things go your way, a few injuries for you to get that opportunity. But for the most part, those are the realities that I saw early on, which once again made me think to myself, yeah, I need to think about what's next.
Yeah, just wrong coach, wrong moment in time, wrong system for you. Like any of those things can
Yeah.
kinda new coach comes in, doesn't know you, brings in the guy he knew from his past, job or whatever, and it's just not
Yeah,
you.
when you're undrafted or they don't have much money vested in you, you don't have any leverage. So anything can go anyway at that point in time, and that's just the way it is. You like anything else in life, you see what it is, what the game is, and you figure it out, and you evolve from there. I couldn't sit and cry about it, so I just played hard and worked really hard, and I take those same transferable skills into business now. It's like, well, I can't control everything, but what I can control is how hard I work every single day, what I learn from it, what I do. So my advice was to block out a lot of the noise and just keep pushing forward. And I still do that to this day. I just block out a lot of the noise and stay focused on what I need to focus on.
Yeah. Well, Corey, take me back to the beginning, man, because I know early on in life that was kind of formative for your story, and then you had an amazing athletics career in high school through a lot of different sports. But maybe just like take me through the beginning and how this all kind of started.
Yeah, it ebbs and flows, man. I'm gonna tell you all of it, but it ebbs and flows. I mean, like the first day, my dad, we're driving and we go. And my family's not a big football family. They watched it, but no one's like this diehard
Yeah.
fan. But we were driving one day and we pulled over and he said, "You want to play football?" And I was like, "I guess." It's like, "All right, we're here,
Mm,
right?" So it was the first time I played, and got off to a slow start. Just understanding the game. One thing, when you're playing neighborhood football, everybody runs the ball. Everyone's the quarterback. Everyone's running back. Well, I get to little league, and I'm too heavy to run the ball, so now I got to play defensive end.
really?
It's like,
Were you just a
yeah,
big kid at that time?
it was more because of my
Oh,
height that brought on weight. I wasn't nothing a bigger guy. Just you're taller than everybody. Naturally, you're gonna weigh a little bit more than everybody, and it was probably not by much. So just adjusting to the game of football was a transition for me. And then, so unfortunately, a couple years later, my dad passes away, which is like my role model. So now you have to adjust again. And I had a conversation with my wife about a week ago about this. That after he passed away that same season, I quit
mm,
football, and I quit because I was scared. Like I was playing running back, and I remember I was scared to run the ball. And I was like, dang, if my dad would have been there, I probably would have been scared. And I never thought about any of this stuff. I just knew I
mm,
quit. Never thought about the why. So you transition there. Then I go to high school and middle school, and still a slow start. And that's I can contribute that to a lot of things and not come out the gates fast. I was always been like a slow developer, not because of my skill level, because of my
mm,
confidence. Instead of standing in the front of the line going, I'm fifth, sixth in line, or the back of the line going, because it's like they want to, mess up, and that had to do with confidence. So go to high school, freshman year, I'm the third string quarterback. By the end of the year, I'm starting quarterback.
when did you transition to quarterback? Was that, like, Pop Warner kinda age?
From eighth grade, I've been playing football, playing
Yeah.
quarterback. Yeah, playing quarterback. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Been playing quarterback. Pop Warner's pretty neat because, like I said, everyone plays every position. There's no pressure there. Everybody's having a good time. It's a little different now. How things are
Mhm,
now, it's more like a business almost in Pop Warner. But Little League football was so much fun. I still have friends to this day that I play Little League football with. It gave me a lot of foundation. We joke all the time about how much we used to run laps and these drills we would do. It was interesting because my brother asked me to help coach his son's fourth grade team, and I'm like setting up cones and doing drills. And he's like, "Well, you need to get some plays going." I'm saying, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna get some plays eventually once we get these cone drills." He's like, "No, we got a game next week, this Saturday." I'm like, "Oh shoot!" But when I played, we spent 2 weeks just doing drills, and we didn't play any
ho
games. We did
like, how are the
drills.
kids, like, memorizing the plays? Like, are they memorizing it? Do they have, like, wristbands? Like, how's that work?
Well, what I found out was in these leagues, you have these coaches who put their teams together before the season
Yeah,
starts.
of
It
course,
wasn't that
of
serious for
course.
me. And they would have drafts, but they knew how to draft the kids they wanted that already played. We started with a bunch of kids that had no idea what football even was. So we did basic plays, sweep right, sweep left, go right, go left, basic blocking, all these basics. So it was interesting. So that was a reality check to me how things have changed from Little League. From we did drills and learned how to do techniques and practice for 2 weeks before we even started practicing with our team and playing a
Mhm.
game. We really played a game after 5 days with the teams
Yeah.
now. So yeah, it's a little, a little different now than when I played. But I go to high school and my sophomore year, slow start again. All my friends go to varsity, and I play JV, which was fine. You figure things out. And by the fourth game of the year, they put me on varsity as a starting quarterback. I dominated JV football so much that but you ask again, why wasn't I dominant in the beginning?
Mhm.
Confidence. Once the game was played, I was ready to go. But in practice, I'm in the back of the line, hesitant. But once I put the helmet on and the whistle blew, it's like action. Just learning how to do that in the beginning and not waiting around. And these are all transferable skills. So high school, have an amazing career in high school. I mean, amazing career. Lead to state in passing. Have every record at my high school in passing. Track was a 100-meter dash city champ, was amazing in
Corey, I
track.
gotta pause. Are you a running quarterback? Or are you a throwing quarterback? Because I know you're a 100-meter dash champion. Like, don't bury the lead here.
I was a passing
All
quarterback,
right, okay.
actually. That was the key. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I actually threw for 1,700 yards and I rushed for 1,100
All right, well,
yards.
that's pretty good balanced
But that
attack.
that was the key that people threw people off guard because most quarterbacks were running quarterbacks, but I was in a spread offense, so I could do both, which was pretty fun. My favorite player was Charlie Ward at the
Okay.
time, and they went into the spread offense. I love to watch him play. So yeah, it was a spread offense. We had four wides, motion, all those things. So I ran when I had to, or we would call these design run plays, and I would make a play. But it was interesting to be able to quarterback that can run and throw and surprise people. To be able to do that, so that was pretty neat.
Yeah. Track careers, outstanding also.
Yeah, man. That was another thing. So I never ran track before. I played baseball, throughout, middle school, little league. And I got to high school, I played baseball, but I was able to run track also, but I'd never ran before. So I didn't know how to put my feet into the spikes. I didn't have a clue how to do that. I did so my first race I won, but my feet wasn't even the thing right.
Yeah.
It's natural abilities. But I was good. Getting to was after doing all that, you can imagine that every college coach in the country was recruiting me. I got letters from all over the
Mhm.
country because I was so good in both those things. So they had what's called the clearinghouse. We had turn in your grades. So I turned in my grades, and of course, no more phone
Mm.
calls. All those colleges like, no. And I remember getting letters from like Ball State. I'm like, what is a Ball State? Even though it's 45 minutes from it, throw those
Right.
things in the
Yeah, yeah,
trash.
yeah.
But slowly but surely, I went back to that trash can and started digging it out. It's like,
What was
"Hey,
the
coach."
dream school? What was the dream school for you?
Michigan,
Oh,
Michigan.
Corey, come on, man, you're hurting us.
I know. I was hesitant to say that when you asked me that question. I know you're an Ohio State guy. Michigan, man, I was a hail to the victors guy, man. Oh my goodness, that's where I wanted to go. And I remember I got my first letter from them on a Saturday. And you talk about the best feeling in the world, man. Oh man, and they recruited me. So when I was in a position to choose, it was between Michigan, Illinois, and
Okay.
Wisconsin. Ohio State didn't recruit me. You got enough uh, players in Ohio, I
Yeah. Well,
guess.
knowing the story, they missed. We'd love them to go back.
But put it like this: you guys didn't lose any sleep over it. You've been doing
Yeah,
amazing.
yes, yes, yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. Held to the victor was, I want to be a Michigan guy, so I wanted to get there. So I think what helped out with Ball State was when they were recruiting me and came to visit me, I didn't blow them off. I was just happy that anybody was recruiting me, even though I was getting letters from big colleges. My parents always taught me to be respectful to anyone. So when they came to recruit me, I had to talk to them, and we had a great conversation. It just wasn't my dream school.
Mhm.
So now that I have to go back and talk to them about this, it wasn't a bad thing because once again, I didn't burn that
Right.
bridge. So like, yeah, welcome, come on back. But I had to sit out a year. So I'm what's called a Prop 48, Proposition 48. So I mean, academically, I'm ineligible to play college football. So therefore, I can't practice with the team. I can't play with the team. I can't do any of those things with the
Couldn't even
team.
practice with
So
the
I
team.
couldn't do anything. I was Proposition 48. And the hardest part about that was on Saturdays, I would turn on the TV and all my friends I played against in high school were all on TV playing for Michigan,
Mhm.
Stanford, IU. So I had to get back on that field, man. So I really, really, really worked really hard to get back out there. Ended up getting redshirted the next year. So I sit out 2 years without playing football
Mm.
at all. Well, the redshirt year I
Yeah.
practiced, but I didn't play. So here go my third year, and I'm finally ready to play. And we played again against Florida. The Florida, I think name right now. I'm about to say Seminoles. What's Florida's
Florida
name? The
State? Oh, the
Gators.
Gators. Yeah, you got
Yeah,
them right
Florida Gators.
behind you, man.
Yeah, got him
Yeah,
right behind me. Yeah, that was my breakout game against Florida. Man, I had 7 catches for 145 yards and a
that's pretty
touchdown.
good.
That was like my breakout game. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's roll. And then the next week we played against Kansas State, who had two first round draft pick corners. The first game I had 7 catches for 145. The next game against Kansas State, no, we played West Illinois, who had two first round draft picks on their team. Then we played Kansas State. So first 3 games were amazing for me. So I had a total of maybe I think 9, 10 catches in my first three
Mm.
games. which were great. Didn't catch another ball the rest of the season.
Mm. They started zoning in on you. They're like, "Eh, this guy's good."
No, no. Our coaches started game planning for the MAC,
Ah,
so we turned into a run-heavy team.
interesting.
We at those games, well, out of conference games, you don't wanna show the conference teams your
Mm,
stuff. So you run a lot of stuff just I wouldn't say for fun, but you don't run any of your base stuff. So we're just like just airing it out. So we had great opportunities for a wide receiver. But then once we got into the MAC, we started running the
mm.
ball. And that was that season.
Corey, when did you transition from quarterback to wide receiver? What was that like? And do you think back about that transition at all?
Oh yeah. So they had me lined up as quarterback at Ball State once I became eligible. I was like, no, I don't play quarterback. They're like,
Really?
what?
It
I'm
was
like,
your
no,
decision,
no. Yes, yes, yes. I always had dreams of going to the NFL, right?
right?
And I've always had a plan. And there wasn't too many 6 foot quarterbacks in the NFL at the
Yeah.
time. You had it wasn't a thing, you know. And just looking statistically, I'm like, I'm 6 foot tall in the MAC. What does it look like? But I know I'm
Yeah.
fast. So I felt wide receiver would give me a better opportunity to go to the league from the MAC. So was thinking early about the long
Mhm.
term of this. So yeah, I told them I want to play wide receiver. It was my decision. So I'm glad I made it. My brother doesn't think that way, but I'm glad I
Yeah,
did.
what do you
My
think now?
brother,
Do you think that was the correct decision?
oh heck yeah, by far, by far. I mean, you still don't see too many 6 foot quarterbacks. And name the last quarterback that came out of the MAC. Anyway,
I can't think
you
of
know,
any.
Brian Leftwich and
Yeah,
Chad
yeah,
Pennington, which
Leftwich.
was
Yep.
Marshall, but they were before they were Marshall, they were in another division, you know, so it wasn't like they started out in the MAC, but name your traditional MAC teams, Ball State, Toledo, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, they don't put out too many
Mhm.
quarterbacks. So I knew that my speed would help me in a different ways. I could return kicks, catch pass, punts, and I can do all those things, which will give me a better opportunity to get on the field. That's kind of my thought process of going to the NFL.
Well, I mean, proof's in the pudding, you made it to the
Yeah,
NFL, we can't go run the reverse course, but yeah, you
yeah,
could probably
yeah, yeah.
look back at quarterbacks that were in that era, that were in the MAC and, like, look at the whatever, let's say the 5 or 10 best quarterbacks that decade in the MAC,
Mhm.
and you could probably go
Yeah.
backwards, but yeah, I mean, to your point, like, a MAC quarterback's what? Like, fighting for a 3rd string job probably, unless there's some sort of, like, anomaly, like Joe Flacco kinda thing?
Yeah, what's interesting is we had, my junior year, Ben Roethlisberger
Mhm.
played, but he's 6'4",
Yep, yep,
260.
same with Flacco, right?
You know what I
Flacco's,
mean?
like, giant.
Yeah, yeah. So you look at those things too. Once again, like in 6 foot tall quarterback doesn't happen that often. You see more now, and not even now really, but it doesn't happen that often. So just and think about when I was in college and going to the pros, there weren't any 6 foot quarterbacks out there. You know, Drew
Yeah,
Brees, maybe he was at that point in time, he wasn't even playing. That's one out of 32
right.
teams. And think about the backups. So yeah, I just thought I had a better shot at playing wide receiver than anything else. So no, looking back, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Did you, think about running track at Ball State, or was it just like the football team's like, "Dude, you gotta focus?"
Yeah, well, that was the time I had to focus because once again, like I said, I was academically
Yeah,
ineligible my
yep.
first year in college, so I wanted to make sure that I could put in the work and do the work. And I ended up being on the dean's list. And I have a master's degree now, but initially it was like I got to focus on one thing at a time. People ask me all the time, "Did I join any fraternity?" I was like, "Nah, it was me fight me. I
Yeah,
focus on
yeah.
me. It's just football." So no, never thought about running track. It didn't cross my
Really?
mind. I had to stay locked into football, man. I mean, and once again, you sit out 2 years already. You're already behind the gun, so I wanted to make sure I was just focused on just
Mm.
football.
Okay, so football career at Ball State goes really well. Like, when do you think, like, "Holy cow, like, I actually might be able to go to the NFL?"
Definitely after that Florida game. I mean, just playing against other Florida players and saying, "Hey," and then even at the time, Steve Spurrier was the
Yeah,
coach, and he made some great comments about me after the game. And then we play against Kansas State and have a great game. And their head coach said something about me. So, I was right on a high. The first 3 games of the year, I mean, on a high. But then we don't throw the ball anymore, and there goes the
yeah, you
low.
talk about that confidence
That's
boost, right? Like, "Huh, like, I can
yeah,
do this. These
yeah,
are Florida's, like, they're the best, and if I can do it against the
yes.
best, like, yeah, maybe I can do this."
Why not the Mac? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that gave me that confidence that I can do it, and I knew it wasn't. I didn't catch any balls at Ball State or have a crazy career at Ball State, it wasn't because of my talent, it was the system I
Mhm.
was in, and I understood that. But me playing that Florida game and Kansas State game, that showed me I was just as good as those guys. So I knew it wasn't me. I knew it was a
Yeah.
system. So I just knew I had to work really hard to get on the radar screen of scouts and kind of go from there.
So looking back, like, did you think about transferring at any point in time? I know the transfer rules were way different. You already kind of sat out at least one redshirt year, and I know back then it was what you probably had to sit out at least another year after you transfer.
Yeah, so if you transfer across to another Division One team, you had to sit out a year. I mean, sit out a year. But if you transfer down to a one double
Mhm.
A team, you'd have to sit out. Once again, I've already sat out two
Yeah.
years. I don't have any more contacts anymore at this point in time. Like you just gotta just stick it out. You know what I mean? And people ask me right now, like based on like how things are now, would I have if things were how they are now, would I have transferred out of Ball State? And I would love to say no, I wouldn't. I would have gutted it out, but I wanted to leave then. I just couldn't. But because I've gutted it out, look at the benefit of it. I learned a lot and gained a lot. But sometimes you look at situations and say, is this best for me or not? And it wasn't because we weren't a passing team and our quarterbacks didn't have the arm strength to get me the ball. But I learned a lot, so it's all
Yeah,
good.
you probably would have called Steve Spurrier, right? And been like, "Hey, if those were nice comments about me. Like, if you need me,
You,
enlist my
you remember
services."
hell, after the game, I probably would have been
Yeah.
doing that. It's like
uh,
but, I'll fast forward and I'll come back, but I'll fast forward, that's what the NFL scouts told me. When I did a private workout, I didn't get back to the combine. I had a private workout, and about 15, 16 scouts showed up, and I ran a 4.28 40 time. The first time I ran the 40 in front of them, I ran a 4.31, and they said, "Take those shoes off. You gotta put some more shoes on." And that's when I ran a 4.28,
mm,
and my agent's like, "We're all done here. We're not running anymore
yeah,
at
right.
all." But the scouts told me, they said that, your time is amazing. It's gonna be hard for us to convince our general manager to draft a guy from Ball State with your stats. They said they'd rather get a guy from Florida, the second or third string, because they know they've been coached up and have played the competition every day in
Mhm.
practice and take a chance on a Ball State guy whose
You
stats aren't
might
that
have more
good. So they're
upside,
like,
but it's a little bit more of a chance.
they have a chance because if the guy at Florida fails, the general manager or scouts like, hey, we put him in, he wasn't good. If I fail, they'd be like, he's from Ball State. What do you
Right,
think?
right.
So they're not willing to take that chance. So they're like, yeah, that's probably why I wouldn't get drafted. Which just the fact they came to my workouts, the fact I had a great time, I knew I'd get opportunity just to know what it would be
Mhm.
like. But to your point about the transfer portal and the point about, playing at a bigger school, knowing what I know now, of course, I probably would have transferred. And then plus the exposure you get playing at those bigger schools, being on TV, playing in the MAC, you're not on TV as much back
Sure.
then. So yeah.
Okay, so you do these private workouts. Do you get an agent? Does someone coach you up on, like, what to do at this point in time? Because it seems like it's a little bit of
Yeah.
Wild West, like, where do I go from here?
The other interesting part about, so I didn't know this at the time, but apparently this it's like this top 200 senior list comes out and all the agents in the country get it. And based on you rank that, well, the first person who approached me to be my agent was my mailman, and he was a certified agent. And
Mm.
so he
Hey,
came
it's
to
still
me.
good to get noticed, you know?
Let me tell you something though. Actually, he wasn't my mailman. He wasn't even my route, but he knew about me and he actually transferred routes for a couple of days so he can try to
That's
talk to me,
good.
which
That's a
was
hustle
pretty
right there. I
smart.
appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't sign with him though, but I ended up signing with an agent. And one of the rules, this is why you need an agent when you're in my position, is you can work out within an hour from your hometown
Okay.
anywhere. So basically, because the combine's in Indianapolis, I could do a personal workout in
Mm,
Indianapolis because that's my
I see.
hometown. Like I can't go to California and do a workout in front of scouts because I know they're gonna be there. You have to be within an hour of your
What are
hometown
they trying to accomplish with that rule?
to make sure guys aren't just going all over the country working out for NFL scouts. Because let's say I'm at Ball State, right? And nobody and no scouts are coming out there. Well, if I got a friend that plays for Stanford, let me go out there
You
and work
can
out
just
your
go to the
workout. So
Stanford
it keeps
workout, essentially.
so now you have 200 people, 2,000 people from all
I
over the
see.
country going to these workouts. So they try to limit,
Okay.
how many people are at the workouts. So I was able to work out in Indianapolis the same week of the combine. So that's why all those scouts were there. They're in town anyway. And plus, I had a pretty good return career at Ball State, kickoff return career. I was number one in the nation in kickoff returns. So that's got to get me on the radar. So when my agent invited them to see me work out, then it came to that. So I had a great workout there. Like I said, they kind of were upfront with me about things, and I got it. I understood it. Another task I have to figure out, but that's okay. I've been through it before in my life, so it was
Mm.
okay.
So when they're talking to you because you had such a good career doing kickoff returns, are they thinking this guy might be a kickoff return specialist? Might be like maybe some wide receiver, like, and the guys will play offense and defensive special teams, right? That's pretty common,
Yeah, yeah. So your normal guys who play special team are your back end roster guys. You know, the guys that don't start. So depending on how the depth chart looks, how teams are set up, you know, how many players they keep at each positions, the backup of that position is going to be the special teams guys. So yeah, that was the biggest thing is me being able to return kicks and hopefully develop as a wide receiver. I was still raw as a wide receiver, and because we didn't throw the ball much, you know, you know no, they were shout out to my coaches, but I wasn't trained by pro NFL coaches in
hmm
college. You know, that's what they said. But two also was most of these guys at Florida or Florida State that are third stringers are being coached by pro coaches every
yeah,
single day. You know, you were coached by a guy who was a nice guy, but wasn't an NFL coach. So it was like, well, if you can return kicks, maybe you can learn how to be a good
you
wide
have
receiver.
value
So that's
essentially
kind of the thought
on day
process.
one, kind of thing to the team. So,
Yep, yep,
so
yep, yep, yep.
what's it like returning kicks? That seems not only like high pressure, but also like I know they've changed the kickoff, like, because it was dangerous, but it
Yeah.
seems, like, incredibly dangerous. You're like, "I'm gonna just try to hit this hole as hard and fast as I can."
Let me tell you something. It is one of the best adrenaline
I
rushes
I
you would ever
believe
want to
that.
have in your life because the ball is in the air and somebody's running towards
Right.
you and the ball haven't come down yet. So you got to think about this. This guy's running as fast as he can towards you. And you're looking up for the ball, waiting on it to come down.
Well, I would imagine the
And,
kickoff is at least a little bit less frightening in that exact moment than a punt. Because sometimes the punt, like, I'm like, "Oh, call a fair catch," because 'cause I'm seeing it on team. I'm like, call a fair catch," and they won't, and they get hit right away.
so you're right. But I'll add a caveat to that. On punt, at least they're being held up for a minute and then they take off. Kickoff, they're running full
That's true,
speed.
they
So they got
that's
a
true.
full head
That
of
right,
speed.
because they get it
Yeah,
run
they got
past
full
the
head of
kicker.
speed. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Both of them are definitely extreme in their both ways. And like I said, at punt, you know, once again, they get help a little bit, but still they're still coming down. Kickoff, if they can get around their block, they are coming full speed after you. But both are amazing, and how high the ball goes. That's probably one of the things I miss about football is like that adrenaline rush you get on a kickoff return or punt return. That ball is so high in the air, and you know at any point in time, somebody can just take my head off, but I got to catch this ball anyway. That's a heck of an adrenaline rush. And then you got, you know, your back end roster guys who are trying to make a name for
That's
themselves.
true, yeah.
They're kamikaze
Oh, yeah.
coming at you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot of going on there, but it's an amazing experience. And you know, once you break that second wave, and you hear that crowd roar. I remember running that kickoff back at Ball State. I got the win the game against Toledo. It was it's an NCAA record. I couldn't hear anything until I got in the open field, and this you could hear this crowd just going crazy. And that's probably one of the things as a former athlete you miss if that crowd noise, you know, is like, wow, and that adrenaline rush you get from that. So they're just memories now, but they're good memories.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine. Like I played soccer, so I think me and my friend were just talking about this, and he was like, "There's probably just no better feeling than like hitting a home run, like in sports, right?" And I was like,
But
"Well, I hit a home run in little league, but like what I know
yeah,
is scoring a goal." And
want to
like
go.
what you know is like a kickoff return. That's so crazy because it like you get a build up, right? You get like that four or
Yeah,
5 seconds, like as you're rushing towards the end zone, where everyone goes crazier and
yeah,
crazier. That's cool, man. That's fun.
yeah, yeah. So you know the feeling. I mean, that feeling that this hard work I put in, look what just happened. And you know the work you put in. And I think that when people actually play the sport, they appreciate it that much more because I think people assume because they don't play, it looks easy, but you as a player know this was
hmm
hard.
Oh,
So other players
oh,
appreciate
man,
that.
it's amazing. You just watch these, like, these elite athletes in warm-ups, and you're just like, "This is so remarkable what they can do in, like, slow speed," when it's, like, nobody's defending them. These guys are just grabbing it with one hand, touching the toes, and you're like, "Wow, they make that look so easy." It's like, well, that's their
Yeah,
job. They do that for, like, 8 hours a day, you know?
And I wish if I don't really go out to games or bars. I wish every guy from a bar can go down and stand
Oh,
on the
yeah.
field while action is going on. I think they would limit their conversations in the bars because they realize how good these athletes really, really are. Because I think once again, you guys in soccer make it look so easy on TV, and I don't think people can appreciate how much skill they take to
Mm,
do it. I think soccer is probably a little bit different than football. I think that everyone has grabbed a football and ran with it and can imagine I can do this. But we've all tried to handle a soccer ball, and it's difficult as hell to
well,
take care of.
my now wife, I got her into soccer when we were dating,
Mhm.
and she's so funny. She'll still be like, "I would have scored that," and I'm like, "Emily, I love you. You would not have scored that. That goalkeeper's 6'4", and, like, he can cover, like, an 8-foot range with his arms, and that guy had, like, a tenth of a second to shoot that. Like, you probably wouldn't have scored. I'm
Nah,
sorry."
I've tried to dribble a soccer ball. It's difficult to control, you know what I mean? And you guys maneuver it in and out. We've all tried it. That's why people kind of appreciate how hard it is because we've all tried to dribble a soccer ball, and it's just rough. A football, I think people either haven't played and they assume because they haven't played, or they've played in their backyard with a football just running. Oh, I can do that. But we know we can't dribble a soccer ball if you can't
Well,
do
I
that.
think you probably know this better than anybody because you played at such a high level. Like, there's just certain people who have just like this either genetic ability or they've got like the mind muscle connection that other people just they'll never be able to have. And I'm sure you've seen
Yes.
some of the athletes that you just go like, no matter how much effort I give, how much training I give, like I'm not gonna be able to do what that person just did. And that's what I
Yeah.
realized
Yeah.
about soccer, that I just played with guys and I'm like, "I practice extremely hard. I'm never gonna be able to do what that guy just did."
Yeah, there's certain guys like I think as an athlete, you would say this as a competitor, you're going to size yourself up to everybody. But I think there's certain guys you're like, yeah, he's good. You know, what I mean? I think you give those props out to those guys when you see them execute. I think the biggest thing I saw in the NFL was how hard the star players actually worked in practice, and those things. When you see those things, I think that it brings this element of you've made it and you're a star player, but you're still working just as hard. So you really are appreciate and respect that they really have honed in their craft. I was fortunate enough to play with
Oh
Jerry
my gosh.
Rice, and while I was there, Jerry Rice was probably 88 years old. That was like at the end of his
Yeah,
career, but he was still
definitely
the
in football
first
years, he was
person.
88.
Yeah, but he was always the first person at practice and the last one to leave at that age. And you see me, I'm like 22, 23 at the time. I'm like, why am I not out here? You know what I mean? So seeing those guys work like that kind of inspire you to keep going because I think we all have work ethic. What I don't like to comment is someone says he works harder than anyone else. No one does. Everyone works
Yeah,
hard, but there are guys that you say, okay, they do put in a lot of effort. You know what I mean? But that's a comment I hear sometimes. Well, no one works harder than him. If you play professional sports, you've worked very, 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 very,
yeah,
very hard. But there are certain guys who have another gear and they figured it out. And Jerry Rice was one of those
yeah,
guys.
and I think you when you can tie that effort, that desire, that, like, insane effort with, like, I just for some reason, like, Jerry Rice could run a route better, he'd get open better, he'd catch a ball better, he just could figure out where the space was better than other people, that it was like it didn't ma like, you had better athletes potentially,
Oh yeah.
but just he had some that's like I think about, like, again, I keep going back to soccer, but, like, Lionel Messi, people are like, "He's, like, 5'5"? He's 5'6"?" And
Hmm.
I'm like, "You just don't get
Yeah.
it. He's like an alien." He's, like, literally an
Yeah.
alien that for some
Yes.
reason, like, he can do this thing just better than everyone else, and it's not because he's
Yeah.
faster or quicker or taller or stronger. It's just, like, this weird thing that he has that nobody else on planet Earth has.
Yeah. So Jerry Rice, for example, if we went a foot race, I'd beat him by probably about a car length. Height wise, I'm an inch or two taller than him. Build wise, I weigh more than him, but he's the greatest of all time. So those things don't matter when it comes to certain guys.
Yeah.
They just know how hard work, but definitely they just have this innate ability to be able to be the best at what they
Yeah,
do.
that's what I felt like I learned, like, about soccer because it's, like, such a weird skill speed game, like, doing this skill so
Mhm.
fast that I just saw guys, I was like, "I just can't do what he just did at that speed."
Yeah. How far? But you play at Fair? You was Fair
I
State,
no, I
right?
played at Ashland University, so we're D2,
Ashland,
so I didn't make it that close,
yeah.
like I said,
I
I
got you.
found people that like, I had a guy, he transferred to Syracuse, and he was the Big East, like, all Big East, like, Then he went on and played in the Philippines. He went on and played in Australia. But it's just like crazy. It's like that's one of the best players I've ever seen in person. And this guy was like not even close to playing in the top flight of Europe. Like it's just like so
Mm.
far away. Um,
What's funny about that, so my wife's an optometrist and she'll see patients or she'll see out and about and she'll see like different people and men. And I told her that the guys who say they could have went pro but didn't are the guys who just played high school
yeah, yeah.
sports. When you get to college, you kind of get it. Yeah. And I say anybody that says I could have made it but didn't, those are the high school guys that didn't play in college. Because you get to college, you kind of realize, okay, all right, this is it for me. I'm gonna enjoy this. But I think guys that just play high school still fantasize or have this reality, false reality of I could have did this. When you play in college, you kind of measure up and see who's who and what to what really, really
Well, that's
quickly.
like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? The more you learn about the thing, the more you realize, like, oh God, I know nothing about this. But like the person who just started it, like 4 weeks into whatever boxing training, they're like, oh, I could kick everybody's ass. And then like 4 years in, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm so bad at this.
Yeah.
Because like I've just
Yes.
seen the levels.
Yes, I told her that she's laughs now because it's paying out to be true. Any of those guys, she'll ask, "So where'd you play college?" I said, "Well, I didn't play." And she said, "Yeah," and she doesn't make him feel bad, but in her mind, she knows. Yeah, I've heard this before.
So you do this personal workout, and you have some people come and watch you. You run really well. What happens next?
Yeah, so now it's a waiting game. No one's saying anything to anybody. None of the agents can get any information about any potential draft or interest because the NFL teams they want to keep it tight to the best, even guys on the back end of the roster. So I ran in what was it beginning of March, so it was crickets from there. And I think that why I had to keep the faith is because you just got to just keep putting the work in and whatever happens, happen. Because now from March till the end of April, I don't know if I'm gonna get picked up or not. So it's like, do I continue to work out? What if I work out for an entire month, a 2 month, 3 months, 4 months, and no one
Right.
picks me up? So you have this limbo of how much do I work out? Because I could be doing all this for nothing. But you kind of gain this ability to say, you know what, I'm gonna do my best and whatever happens, happens. If I don't get picked up or no one picks me up, at least I'm gonna be stronger. I'm gonna get something out
Mhm.
of it. So I apply that same rule to business. So for about 2 months, I didn't know what was going on. So the draft comes, and this is when the draft's on 2 days. It's like a month long now. A long draft now. It's just 2 days when I was playing. And of course, I knew it wasn't first day. So the second day come, and the second day is rounds four
Mhm.
through seven. So you're kind of like, I don't know. They said probably not get drafted, maybe the seventh round, who knows? So I wouldn't say I really started honing in on the draft probably around the end of the fifth round. So, you're getting these names are being called. So I go over to my agent's house, see Dan's getting called. So now we're in the seventh round. I mean, sixth round, and still no name being called. So you're still holding out hope that somebody may call you, and especially those teams that saw you work out. You really think, well, these 16 teams in the sixth, seventh round. So you get to the last few picks of the draft, you don't get your name called, and it's deflating. I mean, you even though you kind of knew it might not happen, it still was deflating. You're like, ah, shoot, I didn't get
Mhm.
called. Luckily, about 3 minutes after the draft, two teams
Mm.
called. The New England Patriots and the Jacksonville Jaguars called. So at this point in time, my agent is a new agent, so he didn't know like the process either. So it's like, okay, do we wait another 20 minutes and tell these guys to hold on, or do we jump on it? And at that time, they both teams called, and I was able to get off the phone with them, and we looked it up, and Jacksonville Jaguars didn't have a kick
Mm.
returner, and the agent on the phone told me that their current kick returner they were going to release, and then their third string wideout they were going to
Mm.
release. So on paper, that just seemed like a better fit
Right.
for me than New England at the time. And then after I ended up committing to New England, the Rams and Green Bay called, but I'd already. You don't want to like. I'm a guy
You don't
from
wanna get
Ball State with
greedy.
33 catches. Yeah, I'm like, You know what I mean? It's not like I have much leverage here. So it's like, hey, these two teams call. We need to make a move
So Corey,
now.
how does it work? Can is there a minimum? There's I know there's a league minimum, right? If you make the
Mhm,
team,
yes,
but are you like
yes.
negotiating your way up slightly at that point in time? Like how does that work?
Doing what?
Yeah, well,
Negotiate my
like, well,
way up.
that's what I'm asking, right?
I'm, just,
Like,
I'm just happy they
right.
called me, brother.
So do they go, "Hey, we're
there is
putting you on league
no,
minimum. That's just like is what it is," or
yeah, yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
all
much
set.
understood?
And this is the crazy part about the perception of it. Even though being an undrafted guy, I ask all people all the time, like, what do you think my signing bonus was when I signed with the Jaguars my rookie year? I ask people that all the time, and I hear these crazy numbers. I'm like, no, I got $1,800 for
Hey,
signing with them.
that'll cover the flight down there. Might not cover the move-in expenses, but it'll cover the flight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got $1,800 at the time. But I think there's two things there. You know, being a poor college student and get $1,800 was great. But the perception that people had that I was this
Yeah,
multimillionaire now
yeah.
was just so far from reality. So I signed with them on a
Mhm.
Sunday night. They fly me out on a Thursday for practice that next Friday. So I literally a week, not even a week about signing with them, I have mini camp practice, rookie mini
Oh,
camp.
man, what a crazy that's I'm sure
Yeah,
that day
yeah.
is crazy.
It moves so fast. It goes so fast. And then rookie mini camp is when I told you those guys. So they had rookie mini camp, and they had some veterans there also, some veterans there, undrafted guys, back in roster guys, those rookies and us. And that's when I told you that the three guys were cut on that day, that first day of practice. And I will say this real quick. The moment I like took a deep breath and relaxed was when I'm sitting behind someone and they have their helmet on, and I can see the NFL logo on the back of their helmet. That was probably the best feeling I had the entire time I ever been in the NFL was that moment right there. Because you know you're undrafted, you know you have a contract, you know all these things, but that moment I was able to take a deep breath and sigh for 1 second. That was a great feeling, great feeling.
Mm. So, clearly you make the roster. I mean, I know that process is not an easy one. You've got the were they still doing 4, preseason games at that point in time?
Yeah, they're still doing four. So the interesting thing with that was, I go into the locker room and I don't see my name on the depth chart so we had the veterans come at mini camp a week later. So I look on the depth chart and I don't even see my name on the depth chart. So I go to Tom Coughlin and say, hey, you know, I had a good rookie mini camp. I don't see my name on the depth chart. He's like, yeah, probably won't see it on there. I'm like, yeah, well, why not? He's like, yeah, guys like you we bring in for camp, and we kind of get what we need out of you and send you home.
Well, hey, you gotta respect
So
he told it like he thought it was.
yeah, yeah, he said that in so many words, and you know, you once again it goes. But I have this memory of how many times I've been told no or been rejected. You know, I've told you several stories of my father passing away. You know, being academically ineligible. I told you all these things, so you just got to hone in on those things right there and say, hey, you know what? So I'm going to do my best. So once again, you block out the noise and you're going to do your best. You see what's around you. You see that, you know, the team keeps four wide outs and there's eight wide outs on the roster right now. You see that you're not getting but 2 or 3 reps in practice. You see all those things and it can become discouraging, but you got to put blinders on and just stay focused because it can really, I've seen guys that were actually better than me, but mentally they lost it because they weren't getting opportunity. They wasn't getting to play. They wasn't doing all these things. But I just like kind of like just stayed focused and went from
Yeah,
there.
I mean, that's one thing that's really tough, right? Because every guy in the NFL was the best player on every team that they played on pretty much, right? Unless,
Yes.
again, you're at
Yeah.
Ohio
Yeah.
State, you might be the 5th best player on the team, right?
Yeah.
But pretty
Yeah.
much every single one of those guys was a story like yours, like all-state high school, high draft or, like a highly recruited, going to a
Yeah.
relatively big school. I mean, Ball State, sure, you can say, "Oh, it's Ball State," but, like, that's still a big
Yeah.
D1 school. Let's not get it
Yeah.
wrong. And then,
Yeah.
you're probably a standout at your college, so then you get to the pros and they're like, "Yeah, you're not getting reps." Like, that's a shock for everybody. That's kinda like what happened to me when I got to college. It was like best player in my high school, get to college, like, "Oh, geez,
Mhm.
you're not one of the best players anymore." It's tough.
It becomes a
Yeah,
mental
for
game.
sure,
Becomes a mental
for
game
sure.
there. It becomes a mental game there. It becomes a mental game there, and you get some players who cannot mentally deal with that. They have been the number one their entire life since pee wee sports, and now you get here. It's like, yeah, figure it out. trying to figure it out. So yeah, it's a daunting task. It's a mental game out there. Like I said, you know that how you make this roster by making plays. At the same time, you know you're not getting any reps. You're not getting any film. And one thing they would tell you all the time is you're playing in the preseason for 31 other
Right.
teams because the key is to get film in the preseason. That way, other teams can kind of see you, and if they get cut by Jacksonville or whoever, other teams can see you on the field. So that's what they tell you early in the game that hey, once the preseason start, you're playing for 31
Mm,
teams and Jacksonville because other teams can see you out there play. So that was my attitude that, if I got on that field, then, I was going to just run fast. So when somebody told me that, they said, hey, just run fast the entire time you're there. Just run full
yeah,
speed.
not bad advice, I guess.
Because they told me this. They said that you're going to go up against a veteran who's been in it for a while. You probably appreciate, but he probably going to tell you, hey, just don't go so fast. Let's just get through practice. Because I don't want to, but he's made the
Mhm.
roster. He's good. You have it. And you got to go blow past him and catch the ball over him. And you have to deal with the fact that he may be mad at you. You may have the guy you looked up to your entire life in sports be mad at you because you ran the route full speed and he didn't feel
Yeah.
like doing it. But and another thing someone told me too, it's a true statement about the NFL, anything really was I caught a pass and caught a touchdown in practice and I go back to the huddle. I go back to where the wideouts are, and the veteran told me this. He said, "Everyone, your teammates, your wideout teammates, are clapping and happy you caught that pass. 'Cause they generally are happy. I caught the pass because it's a
Mhm.
saying, right?" But he said, "Each one hopes you break your ankle going back to the
Mhm.
huddle."
Right.
And that's the reality of sports. What's good for somebody else may not be good for
Right.
you. You respect and appreciate it, but it's still your livelihood on the
Mhm.
line. So how much aspiration can you have for that person that may be taking something from you? And they're not doing it maliciously. It's just the nature
Mhm.
of it. And then what was a reality check for me was I'm in the locker room with men with mortgages and tuition and private schools and houses and cars. That's a lot of why these guys are working so hard to take care of that. You're in high school, college, it's all fun and games and what bar we going to
Mhm.
afterwards. But in pros, it's like this is somebody's
Mhm.
livelihood. So it's real competitive out there, and then you've got to be ready for it. But mentally, some people can't handle
Mm.
it.
So, what happened that you proved Tom Coughlin wrong, and they ended up deciding that you meant to be on the roster?
So this is the honest to goodness story I tell you. This is kind of why you just be honest with yourself. Jimmy Smith, our number one wideout, was holding out. They brought in another veteran, Darnay Scott. He hurt his shoulder, so he was out. So it was just taking advantage of opportunities that
Mhm.
were there because if those two guys are there, that's probably not getting any reps to do anything. But those two guys are out, just taking advantage of those guys not being there. That's the weird part about professional sports. It's more about the circumstances than your skill level because everybody there is pretty much good. But what are the circumstances? Once again, if Jimmy Smith doesn't hold out and Darnay Scott doesn't hurt his shoulder, do I even get any reps at all? Or they even keep me on the roster in training
Mhm.
camp? So that's where a lot of it, you try to explain to people that why things are the way they are sometimes in sports, professional sports.
Mm. So what's 5 seasons in the NFL, like, what's the day-to-day like? And I know you bounce kinda move from team to team. Like, what is that process like as you're moving from one team to the next? Do you feel like, "Man, I just can't, like, set a home up here?" Like, I know you probably are just thankful to have had, like, a career in the NFL, but talk to me about that.
Um, I would say it's a lot of anxiety. People think that it's a lot of anxiety because NFL contracts aren't guaranteed, and they have money vested in me, so you can be cut at any
Yeah.
point in time, and it's all over. And that's kind of my position was. So I would say I had more fun once I retired. I can go back and reminisce about the good times than while I was actually
Mm.
there. I enjoyed it and appreciated it, but it came with a lot of anxiety. So, you go to practice and you do the best you can. You work really hard. And then after practice is over, you kind of like just for a minute relax and then you kind of hang out a little bit. But for the most part, you're not waiting for a phone call, but you're not surprised your phone ring. It's a team telling you getting released because you saw it happen over and over again for guys in my position let me tell you a quick story. So when you go into the locker room of the NFL team at Jacksonville, you have to put in your code to get in
Oh,
the door.
no.
And man, we would be like, "Okay, you put yours in this time." Like, you put yours in this time." It's like and that's how guys would find out they got cut. They would put their code in the door, it didn't
Mm.
work, and then the secretary and the camera say, "Hey, we need you to go around to the front
Oh,
office."
brutal.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you go to work with anxiety, you hoping your code works, and then you just go and work really hard and you hope things work out for you. But I couldn't live in that state of paranoia for the rest of my life or hinge my life on whether this works or not. So that's what pushed me into going into business while I was still playing. Cause like this isn't like
Mhm.
fun. It was fun when I went home and was with my family and friends, but actually being there at the business of it's a
Yep.
business, right? That business of it wasn't fun for me. And that's when I really had to realize that, I can't let anything control my life like this again.
Mm.
So that's why I opened my own businesses up because my livelihood depended on what a coach thought or what someone else thinks or how someone's day is
Or
going.
being able to
And
go out and play even though whatever, your knee hurts, your ankle hurts, but you're like, "I have to be able to practice." Like, I don't have the luxury of being like, "I'm gonna sit out for a couple of weeks, guys."
yeah, that's another key thing about being in my position is so if you get hurt, they have to pay you until you're ready to go out there and play again. So if you sprain an ankle, they can't cut you
Mm,
until you're able to be cleared by a doctor. If you do any injury, they can't cut
I
you.
didn't know that.
So, yeah, they can't cut you. So a guy like me, if I sprained my ankle, I couldn't show them I sprained it because if it wasn't serious, they would probably just cut me before I can go ever get treatment on it. So it's like they'd rather if you get hurt and they saw it, they'd rather cut
Cut
you
you before you
rather than
go
risk
into, like, the
it get
training center,
before it gets
and then
worse. It
the
can get
doctor
worse.
says he
So it can
can't
be a slight
practice, yeah.
sprain. Yeah, it could be a slight sprain, but they rather cut you with the slight sprain because you may go out there again and sprain it even worse.
Mm, brutal.
And it happened it happened the Raiders. I went to Raiders. I dislocated my shoulder, and the team doctor told me, "Hey, you're fine. Go out there and play." But NFL rules is I can get looked at by an independent doctor. Well, the independent doctor's like, Heck no, you can't play. You can't play at all." So the goal is, the dirty secret is they want to get you out there to play so they can cut you. See you practice, they
I
can
see.
cut you. But the doctor's like, "Hey, you can't." He said, "If you was a regular person, you may be okay, but because you play football, you need to get it fixed because it's gonna keep
Yeah,
popping out."
right.
You know? But the team's aspect is we need to get this guy off our books. You know what I mean? So I ended up taking an injury settlement, but I got an injury settlement for the entire year, which gave me actually a credit for NFL season. So I actually didn't play 4 years. 5 years. I actually got a credit for not playing because I had an injury settlement and got paid out for the entire
Mm,
year.
interesting. So
Yeah.
the business of the NFL, you gotta survive. W I know you start to think pretty early on about, like, what's next for me. When do you actually start, like, doing these investments, and what does that look like for you?
So 2002 is when I went to the league. I would say the summer of '02, I started doing research. '04 is when I did my first real estate deal. So about 2.5 years, 1.5, 2.5,
What
about
was
two
that
years
first
before I did my
deal?
first real
Was it
estate
just
deal.
kinda like get your feet wet sort of thing? Keep it simple?
Yeah, yeah, I bought a property in my old
There you
neighborhood.
go.
Yeah, I bought a rental property. And I ended up buying three more that year, which was a learning
Mhm.
process in that, just but that was a way to get my feet wet. And I was a hands-on landlord. I actually went in and worked and did the work and actually collected the rent and all those things because what I didn't want to do was depend on a contractor to tell me. And once again, I think what helped me out is the assumption that people thought I had money, so they would show their hand really early of trying to get over
Mhm.
on me. Because a lot of guys would just be like, "I'll go ahead, I'll just pay it." But with me, I didn't have that much money because I didn't make a ton of money in the league while I was playing. So I was always very, very watchful of the quotes and the bids someone would give me because once again, I knew how much it would cost to lay drywall or lay carpet. So if someone gave me a price that was like 5 or 6 times more than what it was, I knew you were trying to get over on me. So just actually understanding how much things actually
Mhm.
cost. and being able to scale it that way was how I was able to be successful in the beginning because I actually knew the business I was getting into versus just funding it and not actually know what I'm getting
Mhm.
into.
How did you decide on real estate versus, the other investment vehicles that are out there, stock market or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think that growing up where I grew up at, we don't know much about the stock market, honestly. And having an opportunity to have a lump sum of money, I didn't understand what investments looked like when it comes to the stock market or anything like that. I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to make a ton of money
Mhm.
quickly. And you still can't make it in real estate like that. But now I understand investing, bro. It's long term. It's down the road why I invest. But at that particular time, I'm fresh in the NFL. I don't know how long I'll be here. What if one of the things that I can do to get a quick return? And that was the real estate. The vehicle was real estate. And you got to think that was when the market was really, really hot. That was
I was gonna say,
pre-crash.
you had a couple of year build up until '08.
Yeah, it was pre-crash. So I was able
If only you'd have been
to
in the NFL
learn
at,
a
like,
lot.
2008, 2009, 2010, that'd have been peak right there, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I was able to, benefit from how hot the market was in real estate at that particular time. So that's a once again not understanding any other vehicle other than real estate at the time. Then also it was hot, so that's one thing I wanted to get into.
So how does that business scale for you? You buy a couple of I think that's a great thing. You buy one property and then you go, "All right, well, that wasn't that crazy." Like, I don't have to go check out the toilet at 2 a.m. that often, what freaks everybody out about being a landlord. How do you scale up from there?
Well, I think what helped me out a lot was I bought in my community, in my neighborhood, in my area, in my city. So I knew the city and I knew what rent. I knew all those things going into it. I knew what areas that like for example, if someone had mentioned to me Fountain Square back then, I'm like, heck
Yeah,
no, I know
yeah.
that area over there.
It's still,
You know,
as we talked about, still right there on the edge.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So knowing the landscape of my city, that helped out a lot. So I knew where I wanted to go to get top rent, and I knew where I wanted to go in order to be able to get properties that were going to have a little bit of equity in them and also grow. I knew the neighborhoods I wanted to stay away from, no matter what, how good the deal was. So but just by knowing my city and knowing where the hot spots are, that helped out a lot. And not going with trends, but actually being on the ground, understanding it. So I was able to buy in certain areas I knew that were going to be pretty good and safe. I didn't take any risk. I didn't do any prospecting. They were pretty much safe deals. Didn't make a ton of money on the rents, but they were safe enough to learn and make a little bit of money on the rents. So that's why I started at just buying them and renting them myself. And then I go to the prospect of buying them and then
Okay.
selling them because you kind of
Yep.
evolve, right? You kind of figure, okay, my capacity is met on me owning rental properties. I don't want to own any more rental property right now. Okay, I know a lot of buyers. Let me start buying properties, fix them up, and selling them. So you got to get into that, and then you realize that now I can just build one from the ground up,
Mm,
and make even more money. So that's when we start building from the ground up. I will say there were a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes in that process. One of the biggest mistakes I made would cost about two hundred
mm.
thousand dollars. I bought 3.5 acres in my old neighborhood, and I was going to build new houses for my entire neighborhood. And that dreams didn't quite work out like that.
Mhm. Was it's
Matter of fact, that land still sits vacant to this day, and that was darn near
was it
20 years
zoning?
ago.
Zoning issues or what?
No, so not doing my due diligence and research and not understanding the entire aspect of real estate from a developer standpoint. I knew it from a landlord, from a rental standpoint. I knew it from a rehabber, sell to investor standpoint, but a development standpoint, I never did a development before, and that was like a dream to do. So what you do is you tend to listen to people who are the
Mhm.
experts. But what I didn't realize was consultants are consultants, and they may be experts, but their job is to
Yep.
get paid. And so I listened to consultants on what I should do as far as the development aspect of it. So the consultant I was working with told me that, based off our numbers, we could build about 35 houses on this. And of course, to scale it and it pays for the infrastructure, the bill and everything would scale out. So I go to I even get prints made, everything made, drawings, renderings, all these things. And then what I wasn't told was, well, you gotta get this place, you gotta go to the zoning board
Mm,
first. So I go to the zoning board, and the zoning board tell me, yeah, based off this zoning and based off the setbacks and all these things, you may be able to get 17
mm,
houses on here. Which to this day I can't understand why the consultant would tell me I can get 35, but he told me that after I paid
mm.
him. So yeah, there we go. So of course, with 17 houses, that's not even gonna cover the
Yep.
infrastructure. You know?
Right.
So that was a lesson I learned about doing your due diligence and putting a system together whenever you're going to do anything. So, like I said, property still sits. It's. I take care of it. It's a land that sits in my old neighborhood, but it's not a area that has been redeveloped by the city yet. So, trying to build something on it makes no sense right now. So, who
Mm.
knows?
So development though, is that what you do primarily now, or do you do a mix of a variety of different these functions?
So development been doing it since
Mm,
2010 successfully. I would say around 2017 I started transitioning out of development. We still have a few small projects, and what I do more now is business
okay,
acquisitions.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I buy small businesses from your baby boomers, things of that nature, people that are looking to retire. And how I got this concept is because I was doing development in smaller towns around Indiana, and I had a bunch of contractors wherever I went. There were a lot older guys, and they didn't have any plan about what was next. They were like, my kids are off at college and my kid doesn't want it. So that's why I realized that there's a space here for people retiring very
Mhm,
soon or going to retire in the next couple of years. And I just told you before about the mistakes I made in the beginning because they were all startups. How about buy a business that's already cash flowing, already going? So now you're not developing it. No, now you're not starting it up, you're developing it and taking it to
mhm.
another level. So that's what I've been involved with now is the business acquisition aspect of it,
I
of
know that
business.
is very challenging, because you buy these businesses and you do the best due diligence you can, but, like, you find out that, whatever, the plumber that you bought the business of, it's like, "We don't have records of these things that happened," like, "We don't have" like, "Oh, the books are all kooky," and it's like, "Well, that was just how Debbie
Mm,
did them," and so that's
yeah,
much less of a
so
predictable business than real estate. It can be much more high profit if you do it right, but I know that's a challenging business.
yeah, no, so I have a process and system. So we do our whole well, we look at 3 year the tax returns, 4 year tax return. We comb everything through it because like you said, I don't want to get in a situation where it's not if they didn't keep their books right, that's not a
Mhm.
business for me. So in order for me to buy a business, I have to look at I mean, I do my due diligence and then I work with the SBA to get a
Yep.
small business loan. So therefore, they're going to do due diligence
Yeah.
also. They're going to make sure the deal's true too. So yeah, if those things don't check that box, then no. But then also we have strategies of I don't personally buy any business that's heavy in
Okay.
trades where you need a tradesperson to
I was
run
gonna
it for
ask
you.
what
So for example,
industries
I'd
you
never
like.
buy yeah, I would never buy a HVAC company or a plumbing company because you need a master electrician, you need a master plumber at some capacity. I don't know how
Yeah.
to do that. And I don't have a master, I don't have a degree to do it. So you're heavily dependent on someone else. Also, me knowing the trade industry are struggling right now. So I stay away from those. I purchase right now B2B
Okay.
businesses. And because what I want to make sure is I purchase a business is not based on the
Yeah.
owner relationship with the customers. There's a lot of businesses that people come just for the owner, and once that owner leave, the whole customer base may leave. So I focus on B2Bs. I look at the concentration of their
Mhm.
customers. I take the top three and I look at how much percentage of that is their revenue. If I find a business that's over 40% is one company, one customer, I walk away from it because that one customer leave, the 30 of business is gone. So I have a strategy on how to buy these businesses so I can not go through that. It's not. I mean, I'm not put it like this. It's not a perfect system.
Yeah.
Things can happen, right? But it puts me in the best position possible to be successful with acquiring
Mhm.
a
What would be
business.
like an example, like a business to business type company that you bought or you'd be interested in buying?
Yeah, so I've purchased so far three pest control
Interesting.
companies, commercial pest control companies. So I try to focus on businesses that AI is not going to
Most
take
definitely. Yeah.
away. Yeah, and also even though you need a license to do it, I can train someone to do a
Mhm.
pest control. So it's commercial based businesses, but it's also businesses that you don't. It's not heavy trade or heavy licensed businesses. So pest control is one of them. Another one is a dumpster roll
Yep.
off company that I purchased, and then right now I'm looking at a paving company. So I kind of stay within the same wheel well, but pest control is the main one I want to take off on. And what I do is I stay at a certain threshold as far as the business worth, because I can't compete with a big holding company. So I go after the ones they're not going to touch, and then I also go after the one that's too high for the brokers to deal with. So I have a system in place, and that's kind of how I'm able to acquire businesses. But like pest control has been a really good one. Um, Another one I've been hearing about is like hood cleaning
Mm,
businesses. Restaurant hood
mm,
cleaning businesses.
okay.
Those things have to be done. So those are the things I focus on the businesses that no one's
Yeah.
thinking about. No one's even knew. I've turned down a few because when you talk to some of these sellers, potential sellers, they over evaluate their companies. They think they're worth. I get it. I own my own company too. So I just went this route because I've been in the startup long enough, and I want to make sure if I go into an industry that I can develop it and take it to another level versus starting from the
So what
ground
would
up.
be the end goal of, let's say, like the pest control businesses? Are you attempting for them to just keep cash flowing? Would you combine and roll up? Would you sell off to private equity some point in the future? What's your thoughts on that?
So this is kind of what separates me from other people who do this. I am in it for the long term
Yep.
legacy hold. And that's kind of what I tell these business owners before they sell to me, that I want to keep it open, and I want to keep open in these smaller towns, because smaller towns are dying because the businesses
Yep.
are leaving. And some are leaving because they're going to big cities, or some are leaving because the owners are retiring. Think about that pest control company I bought. It employs 24 people. That owner, who was 68 at the time, the kids didn't want it. What was going to happen? There's 24 people that are going to lose
Yeah.
their job. So when I about to talk to someone, I want to keep it open. So I have no long term goals to roll up, to sell to a equity firm. It's the long term hold, as long as I can, as long as it
Hmm.
makes sense.
Well, that's admirable because I mean, it sounds great, but when private equity's calling and they want 60 million, you're like, okay, well that wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't mind that. But
Yeah, you are
yeah,
exactly right, and I'm not going to say I'm not
yeah,
going to
yeah.
do that.
I reserve the right to change
But
my mind on this.
Yeah, but as of right now, it would have to be an extreme amount of money, and I think the businesses are small enough to where I'm not sure private equity is going to come, and
Yeah.
they may, but I'm not sure they're going to come and swoop it up. But my goal is, but it has to make money and make sense. It's not a charity. Like, I'm not doing this and not making any money off of it. So I don't want to come across like I'm this guy who's doing this charity work for the community. No, it makes some
Yeah.
money for me. It just has to make sense. So it's the win-win where you keep stuff open, but you make money off it. So yeah, I don't want to come across like I'm doing this for charity. It's a win-win for me
But
in my
I
opinion.
think that you can phrase it like that, but I think keeping businesses open, keeping community businesses open, keeping people employed, especially at businesses that have that familial atmosphere, right? Where it's not like, Corey, we need more production out of you. You're getting 12 doors a day, but we need you to hit 14. Like that's kind of, and you've probably
Yeah.
seen it too. Like that's how a lot of these private equity companies roll, man. They'll come in and they'll
Oh yeah.
fire
Oh yeah.
half the
Yeah.
staff and ask the remaining, people to do all of the work and be like, we have 24 months to exit this. We need to hire 20 salespeople and bring them in, and we need to scale. And it's just like chaos. And my friend, he sold off to a private equity business, and he was like, what I didn't realize is they had 10 of me. And like if I failed, they
Yeah.
didn't care because they just needed like
Yeah.
one or two out of the 10 to hit it to like,
Yeah.
quadruple their investment. And they didn't really care if
Yeah.
my company didn't scale. They were just giving us the playbook to do it.
Yeah. 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 That's key. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, for and then and being a builder, that's another thing that I'm seeing, that a lot of these smaller towns, there are a new construction because the income of the people who live there is going down, or people
Yeah.
moving out. So if you keep these businesses open, then those places are going to thrive and the income's going to go. So that's another reason. Just being a builder in those areas, I see the effects if there's no industry or no businesses there, the effect on it's a trickle effect because now it affects the builder and the plumber, all those things. So there's a lot that goes into it. And like I said, I have no intentions on, so I want to keep them open,
Well,
keep them
that's
going.
awesome, man. So next phase is continue to acquire businesses in this world. Is that what's next?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's what I'm doing. And I wrote a book about it. It's come
Hell
out in
yeah.
October. Yeah, it's about my experience of doing this. It's called Already Built. Why starting a why acquiring a business is better than
Mhm.
starting one. And it just talks about that beginning of life that I had of starting my own business, and then the benefits now of acquiring them. And I know people say, well, there's a lot of things you can learn from starting your own business. I get that. That's fine. But two things can right at the same time. I mean, there's a lot you can get out of starting one, but a heck of a lot you can get a lot faster out of
Mhm.
acquiring one. You still got to put in the work. You still have to have the intuitive to do the right things, but there's a learning curve that you skip. A lot of people run out of business because they trying to figure out how to
Mhm.
run the business. But if a business is already cash flowing and going, now you jump into it. Now you can figure out how to keep this
Mhm.
thing going. But it still takes work though. But there's a lot of steps you skip
Yeah.
out on.
Well, you've kinda hit on that there are a lot of these baby boomers who are 65 and they own, I know you don't like plumbing, but they own a plumbing business and,
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, of
they
course,
don't
yeah,
have a
yeah.
succession plan really, and their
No,
kids don't wanna run a plumbing business, and,
no,
the company might not be at a level where it's like, "Oh, I can just sell it, like, by snapping my finger." It might be worth
yeah,
150 grand, 200 grand, which might just be parts really more than anything else. And to your point, the SBA will come in and they'll help you lend on that. Or you can also utilize your 401k, I know, to pull
yeah,
money out tax free and buy that business. I've had someone on who talked to us about that. So it's like a lot lower risk than just starting a plumbing business from scratch. Like you're coming in and
oh,
this
good
this
grief, yes.
this already has customers that are doing whatever, $500,000 in sales. The margins might be small to start, but like if we improve, we can be
Improve.
successful.
Yeah, you can work on the business instead of in the business. One of my favorite books is called
Yep.
The E
Yep.
Myth, and it just talks about those systems. So if you can get a business that the systems are already in place and you can keep those things
I
going,
was
good
looking
grief.
right because I have a handful of books, and I have that book somewhere,
I
but it's
mean,
not on the shelf right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd recommend that book for any business owner, startup, acquire anything like that. So yeah, I got a book called Already Built, and it kind of talks about my experiences being a startup guy, but then now my experiences being an
Yeah,
acquirer.
that's amazing. Well, Corey, thank you so much, man. I had a super fun time talking to you. Where can everybody keep up with you? I got
Freaking
your website. Uh, am I saying
yeah,
Parkman? Parkman? Parchman.
Parchman,
Parchman, like a
Parchman,
parchment paper. Corey
Parchman. Yeah, yeah.
Parchman.
I guess you didn't hear my name on. I guess you didn't hear my name on ESPN
Yeah.
enough, huh?
Well.
Nah, just kidding.
Uh,
But yeah, it's my website, and of course, any social media, just look my name up, you can find it. But yeah, my website is coreyparchman.com, and I'm on LinkedIn, of course. So anywhere, like I'm out there. So if you make any questions about acquisitions, I'm willing to ask any questions about those and kind of go from there. But I'm really thankful for you having me on this show. I appreciate it and booking me.
no, man, super fun. And the book you said October available
October
on
1st, yeah,
Amazon
October 1st.
ostensibly.
Amazon, yeah, already built. Just go to the website, you'll be able to find it. Yeah, already built. Yep.
Corey, thank you so much, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Have a
All
great night.
right.